and welcome to another live episode of Automation Ladies. This one is really full of the ladies. We got 4 of us here today, 2 guests, 2 hosts, and potentially 3. We'll see if Allie manages to join us today, but either way, we've got a full house. And we have, I think we've done a decent job of publicizing this episode, thankfully, I think in part due to our very well-connected and well-known guests from FlexLine Automation. And I am going to, I might as well just say it. I've been mispronouncing their last name for years now. I finally figured out what it is. And then I'm just going to go ahead and not say anything in terms of names. So if you, hopefully, if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to Automation Ladies. I doubt most people are seeing us for the first time, but if you are, hello, I am your host, Nikki Gonzalez, one of them. My amazing co-host up above on the screen here is Courtney Fernandez. Courtney, say hi.
Hello.
And our other co-host, Allie G, is currently running around being a CEO and running her business and is probably having a busy day today. A couple of her project managers are out sick and things like that. So as we were just talking about earlier, we actually don't do this for a living. Being on video is not a thing that comes naturally to any of us. I applaud our guests for having the appetite for, and this is not their first time either, but starting to do these appearances more. I think the first time I asked them, it took quite a while to come on. So, and for those of you that are joining, thank you as well. Really, our mission here is just to open up the industry of industrial automation to the outside world, whether that is professionals in adjacent engineering careers that maybe don't know how cool and terrible at the same time our lives are in the automation field, what we love so much about it, why we need more people, and why you should come give it a try if you see something interesting to you, no matter what your background is, no matter what your education, where you come from. There is a place in industrial automation for everyone. All kinds of ways to get in, all kinds of positions to hold. So we like to tell the stories of people in the industry, and and we like to represent more women than most other places. But again, Automation Ladies is called that because of our hosts being ladies in the industry. And this is a rare treat that we have 2 women guests as well. So with that, I guess I'll start by letting Cathy and Lauren, if you guys would be so kind to introduce yourselves to our guests and go ahead and kind of answer our first question in the process, which if you could just tell us how you came up in this industry or where you found it. And I know it's going to be, these are intertwined stories. We've got mother and daughter here working in the same business. But yeah, we'll let you take it away and introduce yourselves and tell us about FlexLine. Okay. And then we will probably have all kinds of fun interjections and questions as we go along. So maybe Cathy, we'll start with you.
A curse on my bloodline. That's how I got in this industry and this business. Sorry, actually, I just had to get that out of the way before you started.
40th year. My husband, Lauren's dad, Rhett, and I had just been married a few months, and he had a job lined up at a local prison here. Prior to that, he was a farmer. So he was finally going to have a job where he had insurance and was going to be have days off and all of this. And at that same time, his dad sold industrial filtration, and he had been out at a sales call at an SKF bearing plant. And one of the engineers there was kind of a buddy of his. And he's like, hey, there's this conveyor product that they don't have anybody selling in the US. And I think I'm going to distribute for them. How would you like to come on board and do sales and all of that? And so he brought that to us and crushed my dreams of having days off and insurance and all that. So, FlexLine Automation was basically born in our farm shop. My husband traveled, did a lot of sales. My father-in-law did a lot of sales. They did a lot of, project stuff. And so I picked up all of the slack. And in the early days, I packed every box that left the building. I did the stuff that they weren't around to do, didn't have time. So, I found myself doing assembly and just all of the things. And
inventory
grew, and we moved into another facility and started the journey of hiring employees and bringing other people into the company. And my role continued to change. So I've pretty much done every single job within our company. I became the president of the company in 1999. My husband tells everybody,
because she took over jobs that nobody else wanted to do.
Right. He says I was naturally bossy, and so I was probably the one that was most suited for that position. So I went from doing a lot of the shipping and the receiving and the packing and the installation. I traveled extensively, did sales, did kind of like what Lauren does now, a lot of trade shows, a lot of customer visits. I did a lot of installation work. So pretty much every aspect of the company. I mean, I'm still very hands-on for somebody in my role, Lauren can tell you what I did a little while ago. I rescued a snake out of our engineering office, actually.
It was almost late to the sales call that I had before this for a palletizing project, because everything got derailed and everybody in the office had to stop what they were doing because there was a black snake under somebody's desk. And she's apparently also not just the president, but the official snake wrangler of FlexLine Automation.
So did you rescue the snake or did you rescue the engineers?
I had to rescue both, actually. The snake, I did get out and freed back into the wild, so it got to live another day. And I think the engineers are back down. They were a little flustered about it. Now they're very worried about, if the snake has a sister or a mother or something in the building. But
are there snakes in the filing cabinets? To heck with plans.
So basically, there's no job within the company that I haven't done or won't do. And so this being 40 years, of course, Lauren, I won't give away her name, but she's grown up, her age. She's grown up in the company. She's like almost a certain age with almost a certain age worth of experience. I'll let her fill that number in if she wants. So, it's just something that we've done a long time. We started out in conveyance primarily, and probably 10, 12-ish years ago, we realized that conveyance was becoming more of a commodity item, and that if we were going to stay competitive and relevant in the automation business, we were going to have to kind of change direction of the company and go into more full integration. And we did full integration projects that were primarily conveyance projects, but now we do a lot with robotics and, shrink wrap. I mean, you name it, labeling. I mean, everything
from process through palletizing is really the way that I've been saying it, because, we've done machine tending, we've done pallet conveyors, before machine tending was a thing, for laser engraving cells. And so we're very used to handling product on the upstream part of the process where it's actually being made and packaged. And then now, especially with having our patented robotic box erector, we're getting into more and more end-of-line solutions. So that's, not little pallet conveyor, but big pallet conveyor for the end-of-line palletizing and stretch wrapping, AMR, AGVs, pallet magazines, which are starting to catch on here in the US, which is kind of surprising to me, but yeah.
Okay.
Bull feeders.
There's not a whole lot we haven't gotten into.
Ancillary equipment.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably a testament to your reputation, the fact that you probably get projects from customers that came to you for conveyors, right? And then they say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Or are you going out and, actively trying to market yourself to these new applications?
Well,
a little bit of both.
We've been really actively promoting the Box EZ, which is our patent pending robotic box erecting solution. And it's really a cool solution because we can fold multiple box types, multiple box sizes, often from a single pick point. So there's no changeover. in a very small footprint, and it has been very widely received. We've really been busy. We've been turning out a lot of these. We've taken it to a lot of shows. It always generates a lot of interest.
For sure.
So it used to be we would have conveyance and we would sell a robot or other ancillary equipment with a conveyor, but I think that has flipped. And now we're going out and we're selling a robot and we're adding some conveyance as a value add to the robot. So manufacturing has changed so much, and I'm really grateful that we made that pivot when we did, because I think that's probably the only reason we're still in business today.
Yeah, I was going to say the evolution, definitely. There's been a lot, over the last 40 years, but then especially lately, I see in the distribution space a huge need for distributors to do more value add, because their customers don't want to deal with multiple different entities and whatever. So they're either trying to do that in-house or partner with systems integrators, buying systems integrators, right? And I think the flip side on the other side as well is systems integrators that don't have access to distribute product or get product at, whatever that is, good pricing or with good relationships. It's harder. So ideally, it's just that the customer wants more automation, right? And they want it done quickly. They want it from somebody they can trust, and they want someone that can service and provide the parts when they're needed. It seems like kind of like a no-brainer, but we've somehow, in the past, we had all these different lanes that people needed to be in.
Well, and we embraced early on collaboration, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that you have to be an expert in every field if you know one, So we like to partner with other systems integrators, and we work together so that we really can bring the best solution to the customer and not just our solution to the customer. And I think that too has really contributed to the fact that we have been able to stay in business as long as we have. We have really tried to build that reputation of good customer service and the willingness to stick with a project and see it through and make those connections that actually bring a project together in the best way possible.
Yeah. I always say that's why, I'm so bad at sales, is because I don't want to go out and sell a product. If it's not going to work perfectly and you're not going to be happy and be happy to see me or talk to me afterwards, that is not a sale that we ever need to make. That's just wrong. Intrinsically wrong.
Person that had to make the decision, do I want to try to meet goal by selling this thing or not?
Yeah.
Right. I always erred on not. Didn't always make the boss happy or the numbers look good. But in the end, you get calls from those same people 11 years later because they say, I don't trust this salesperson. They're telling me this. What do you think? In the long run, I think for, if you're in, especially like for you guys, and I feel maybe that and I may be wrong about this, understand some of your business. I grew up working for my dad's business. And I work in startups now. I work in small companies where really you're looking at the legacy of your company, and you want it to grow. You want it to be a place where people want to come work for the next 10, 20, 30 years. You don't have the luxury of saying, well, I'm going to make this short-term decision now and somebody else will deal with it later. It's like, no, you're the one that's going to be dealing with it later. Or your descendants or whoever, takes up the mantle, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, and the benefit of dealing with a smaller, I think, family business, one of the things that we really give our customers is our full attention. We can't even have a holiday that the dinner conversation doesn't gravitate to business, and we're discussing projects or applications. And it's like, we don't just work in automation, we live in automation, basically, because every time we're together, that's naturally what we talk about. And it's been that way. And Lauren used to joke that, now she feels like she's really come full circle because she can sit at the big kid table and talk, talk to big kids.
Because,
holidays.
growing up, it would be mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, and we would all be sitting around the table at Christmas, and they would be talking about, the fact that dad had been basically living at work because had this project that was on a deadline. And I'm like, this sucks. This is so boring. Why can't we just like all go play Uno? Like, I don't understand why we're talking about work right now. And now it's Christmas and it's mom and dad and it's myself and my husband, who I have the pleasure of working with too. And he's like, you guys, it's Christmas. Why are we discussing? We shouldn't be talking about work right now. It's Christmas. I'm like, but that's what you do. That's the holiday spirit. Like,
I always tell
I've recently heard the term
of some robot delivering your holiday meal, right? And then all singing. Isn't that what your family does on holidays? Because I feel like I've seen that. You guys are so
we have made some videos like that, but I always liken
I love your
business
guys'
to
videos.
a sheet cake, right? If you go to a big company and you get the fancy layer cake, and if you have an issue, you have all of these layers that you have to work through. But FlexLine automation is like the sheet cake that your mom would bake you for your birthday. It wasn't pretty. It's in this square pan, but you know what? Every bite tastes the same. And it's like, we're comfort food. You don't have the fluff of all of the icing in between all of the layers. You have just enough icing to make the bite taste balanced. And so I kind of feel like that's what it's like when you work with a small company. You get the sheet cake and you know what you've got, and there's enough there to feed everybody. And that's what we really try to do.
You guys heard the term work-life integration versus like work-life balance? Because I've been hearing the term more and more lately, but it sounds like you guys have nailed it.
For those of us that can't balance, we have to find a new term that just makes us feel okay about the fact that we have no
right. The work-life balance we have failed at, because in addition to having this automation company, we both have farms. And so we raise cows and have all of we have like 600-700 acres between the two of us. And so we have all of this in the off time. So when we're not,
we have work balance.
Yeah, I was about to say
work integration.
I don't know how you ever expected any holidays being a farmer to begin with. I don't think that the cows take a break or whatever. What farm animals do you guys have? And I guess since there's two separate farms, I'll have to ask each of you this question.
I raise grain-fed cows. Lauren raises grass-fed.
There you go.
Everyone has to rebel in their own way.
Yeah. Slight rebellion there. We're going to change the theme. But I'm going to redirect this conversation back, because Lauren, you haven't had a chance to answer the question. Except for with the cursed bloodline, of course, your immediate answer. You want to tell us, well, you've kind of already answered it, but at what point did you always know that you were going to be in this family business, or did you like leave and come back and then realize it was for you? What was your journey like?
I 100% left and came back. So whenever I graduated from undergrad, I came back and worked, and it was very stressful. There was a lot of personal growth that I needed to have before I could handle working in a family business. And then whenever I went away to grad school, one thing that came really apparent to me was that I wanted to be here and I wanted to work around my family, because I missed being able to leave work to go have breakfast with my grandpa before he passed away, and things like that were, whenever I didn't have the opportunity to do that, I realized how much I valued that.
Yeah.
And so whenever I graduated, I came crawling back, and mom refused to hire me. Dad actually hired me back through a agency.
That's amazing.
True story. That is a true story. I was like, no,
you must earn it back.
Absolutely.
Yes. Nobody can say that Lauren has had an easy road to hoe in this company by any means. No. This has not been handed to her on a platter.
Yeah, we can discuss this after as a follow-up question, but like family business and nepotism, right? It can be a really, family businesses can be great. They can also be terrible, just like families. are great.
Yeah.
Terrible, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
My mom fired me. I'm doomed.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit though is since that I have wound up with a lot of the same kind of varied skills training that actually has made mom a good president because, I didn't get to come back in any sort of management role. I came back and assembled conveyors and did some of the work that I hadn't ever been exposed to before, which has then
She
led
lost all of her
to
seniority and
oh yeah, my vacation days reset too. So I was back down to like only 5 vacation days. It was
oh, you guys, I'm hardcore when it,
oh,
when it comes to that.
it was rough. But now like that gave me a much better basis and much better grounding and made me much better at sales, at customer service, because once you put a conveyor together, once you program a robot, if somebody calls and they're explaining a problem to you, you actually have a frame of reference. And so I would have never guessed it at the time, but I'm really, really grateful that I had that experience. And then of course we got
this, right? Because when this comes up, that I just want to make sure that I have somewhere it is recorded that she's grateful.
This is definitely recorded, Kathy. This is live, perfect. This is streaming and recorded.
No, you guys out there all heard her say it.
We did. Everybody heard it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's true. It's even if it bites me in the butt later, whenever we're having some sort of conversation.
I'll tell you. Her dad and I
am grateful.
And I'm so glad that you hired her back.
I bet you are. Yeah. My dad told me to go out into the world and he said, I can't afford you. And now I have a really sweet setup where I actually work with my dad in his office, but I don't work for him. Not that I wouldn't work for him. I absolutely would. But I think, there's a huge advantage to having the background of like working in the business growing up. Mm-hmm. You learn, and I didn't even realize this, like so many basic skills of interacting with people, doing all kinds of different jobs. And then like when I was interviewing after college with a bunch of kids that had never had a job, or maybe one internship, or maybe like bagged groceries once, just the ability to like answer interview questions with real stuff rather than like, oh, in a class project, I did this. Again, those multiple years of experience, I started working before it was technically legal for me to do so. So I also will not say how many years of experience I have, but that all adds up and you get these, holistic, I think, thinking skill sets of like looking at the big picture because you know more about how the business works in all of its different ways, right? If you've assembled in the back and you've answered the questions in the front and you've seen the accounting and you know how the business needs to, I don't know,
flow.
And sometimes there's like a disconnect. If somebody's only ever worked as an employee, like let's say an engineer, and they don't really have a feel for what keeps the business running necessarily. They do their task and then they go home and, I think those of us.
Why do we fill out this paperwork this way?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. I'm like, well, we do that so that, these 3 other people get the information that we need because I've had all 3 of those other jobs too. So I understand like, hey, this might be a pain, but what's important? Processes.
So if the business makes no money, you don't get a paycheck. Everybody goes home and cries, and let's not do that. Right.
Yeah.
Lauren, as a child, my favorite story is, I don't know, maybe you were like 9, 10, working a trade show out in Anaheim, California. And, she was so excited. She scanned Mattel. She scanned Mattel, somebody at Mattel's badge. And she was just like, Mom, did you know they make Barbies? She was just so excited.
That's still kind of a highlight of my career. I'm not going to lie. Been chasing that ever since.
Yeah, Mattel, if you're listening out there, she still wants to do a project for you.
It's true.
Automation Ladies would also absolutely do a factory tour for free. I mean, we would like to see something being made that my kids
Automation
would
Barbie.
Yeah.
Oh my God, right?
Can we suggest Automation Barbie, like with a There should be a custom order, like
cool.
make your own Barbie website. Is there not by now? There's so much ability to create, like customize things.
I don't know.
That
would be awesome,
you make custom Nikes. Somebody, or like custom Lego sets.
Right.
Like I've got this Lego, robot. There's so many of these things now, just different configurations.
Yeah.
If Mattel doesn't know this or have this already, somebody needs to pitch them the custom Barbie idea. Because if I could just like pick clothes and accessories, we could make an automation Lady Barbie real easy, just with the building blocks that probably already exist.
Well, they have an engineer Barbie, so I could just take her outside and get her really dirty and bring her back in. And
there you go.
Get her hair stuck in a couple conveyor cleats and do those at-home haircuts.
For sure.
Coincidental now. There's a Create Your Own American Girl. Thank you, whoever LinkedIn user. You do not have your settings enabled for us to see who you are, but thank you very much for that link. I've never been into those dolls. I've never had one.
I didn't
my
either.
perception is that they're expensive, but I don't know.
I do remember getting the catalog all the time and just loving, like, fantasizing about having those dolls as a kid. Like, it was, I might have had some of the paper dolls. I think I got some of the paper dolls of them.
I think my daughter asked for them, and I've just automatically been like, oh no, we can't afford that. Like,
yeah.
You've got Barbies. They're fine. You can get a Barbie for like $10 now. So it's not crazy.
I got to play with the Real Erector set. She didn't really need all of those toys. She could just go out in the shop and, she didn't need Legos. She had all of the conveyor components, all of that.
You don't need Legos if you have FlexLink extrusion.
Right?
Aluminum extrusion.
That's what we're all trying to play with, but we're not allowed to, right? So we get these different.
Well, come over. We have
we can have a play date
of inventory and so much scrap. Like, I mean, we can build all sorts of stuff. We built Mom a bird feeder for Christmas one year.
Oh, that's so funny. My 4-year-old's latest request is a marble run. So I think it's National Geographic has a line of like STEM toys now.
Oh, really?
And one of them that they've seen recently, it's like a build your own. It just comes with these building blocks. You can make all kinds of, I don't know what you call them, a marble run, right? It's kind of like a little roller coaster for marbles, and you can build your own.
Lauren grew up on a farm, which is the ultimate STEM toy.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was Albert. Albert Fernandez, thank you very much for the American Girl link.
Thank you,
He
Albert.
is, by the way, Courtney's husband.
That is
IT SCADA hardware virtualization guru. He is going to be one of our speakers at our upcoming OT SCADACon in Houston, Texas, which is in July. Which, excuse me for the unsolicited plug for OT SCADACon in the middle of the episode, but also what you guys were saying earlier, Cathy and Lauren, that, you guys have really embraced collaborating with other systems integrators. So that if there's an area that either you don't have capacity or the expertise, right, you can still get the project together for your customer.
Yes.
That is kind of one of the main reasons why we wanted to do something like OT SCADACon. We attended this amazing training at Traceroute in Dallas, which was all focused on OT networking. But we met so many other systems integrators and companies there, and we talked so much about, collaborating, and we've been seeing it happen. We see it in our LinkedIn spaces, companies that know each other. There's these kind of smaller, like local networks of SIs that work together. And we're putting on this event with that in mind, that all of the speakers are active in the industry and have expertise in what they're going to be talking about, and they're open for collaboration with other people, whether that's sharing resources, training, giving tips, subcontracting on projects, or helping people with resources. And we have this little speaker chat, and it just came up. They've been doing business already. And I said this, I think yesterday, I was like, honestly, anyone in this group should be able to say yes to any job that they want and utilize the resources of the group to make it happen. Because
That's
ultimately,
awesome.
Resources are finite. We can't all know all the things.
Right.
And the ability to have a network that's responsive and that's vetted and that you can pull, that I think is probably even more valuable than just, knowing how to do all the things yourself.
It is,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
especially as quickly as technology is changing. In my 40-year career, I can't tell you the things that are done differently now, and the changes that I've witnessed. And I really believe that we are on the cutting edge of the next industrial revolution with AI and all of the possibilities that all of the technology is bringing to our industry. This is probably the most exciting time to be in this business ever. I had a guy trying to sell me leaf guard guttering the other day. He came to my house, ended up, we talked on my front porch for an hour about AI and how exciting it is,
Nice.
and all the things in industry that are taking place, and how it's all growing exponentially. And seeing like NVIDIA is partnering with UR, and then at Automate, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to see the Neura robots, the cognitive robotics.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so cool. And I came back here, and my engineers are like, oh, that's 10 years plus away. And I'm like, that is not 10 years plus away. You guys are going to miss the boat if you're going to wait 10 years. So much is happening so quickly, and it is so exciting. And I think that the only way any of us are going to keep our heads above water is to collaborate, and is to partner with people that have ability in areas where we don't, where we're still learning, because it's just changing too quickly for any one person. I used to be our IT department here. I built our computers. I went on and like chose like what motherboard I wanted, and
Nice.
every piece of the puzzle. And I did that for a few years. And at this point, I don't, we've got an organization that takes care of our IT now, because I just couldn't keep the pace with it, because everything was changing so quickly. Hardware, software, all of the protocols, everything was just, if you're not involved in it in a daily basis as a part of your business, you have to stop and relearn. And that takes away valuable time. So like what you guys are doing, I think it is so good for our industry, because letting people know who they can collaborate with is really important, and it's going to be even more important going forward. Now more than ever, are we going to have to work together? And
absolutely.
I think it's just such an exciting
Well, you want a
time.
small piece
so
of a big pie, or big piece of a small pie, or a small piece of a big pie?
Right.
I've been thinking about it lately, going, if we're all friendly rivals, and I walk in, to bid on a project, and I see, oh crap, Cathy's bidding on this too, I'm still going to try to bid against you, but I'm going to wish you the best.
I would hope so.
And if you win, maybe you'll call me. If I win, I'll definitely call you. And I think that kind of collaboration wins everybody.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I guess frenemies. I don't know, but
frenemies.
I think customers need that. Without competition, they're going to get a subpar project, right? So competition keeps us on our toes. Competition keeps us trying to be better, and trying to do better, and trying to choose better partnerships. And so I think competition's important. It's an important part of the puzzle that it takes to get a good project on the floor. And at the end of the day, if it's not a good project on the floor, Lauren touched on that, well, we've just wasted a whole bunch of time and money and resources, and nobody is in business to do that.
And don't be greedy.
I think that does harm to the industry overall, because then it turns people off to automation in general. And the next time they hear the word robot or, camera, they're like, that stuff doesn't work.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right.
No, I've heard that a lot. And we, like you said, Cathy, your engineers that aren't going to trade shows, right? They're heads down, building stuff. They were told 10 years ago that, AI is coming really fast, or like, and so we've been hearing that from the vendors, or these like, maybe not AI as much as, Industry 4.0 and digital transformation.
Right.
And, they're out there, maybe building greenfield plants with some giant corporation. And then they say that stuff to us, and, we've heard it enough times that we just laugh at it now or ignore it. But the funny part is, it's finally here to a point where
it's so exciting. I think that Neuro robot was so cool. It was talking. they were talking to the robot like they were talking to Siri, you know, and she was writing her own code as, you know, she was being spoken to. And it was so cool that she was cognitive, you know, she could listen, she could see, and she could feel. And, you know, when you stop and think about how we're going to see more and more of that mainstream, you know, that's pretty soon going to be on a Universal, on a Fanuc, on a, you know, Yaskawa or Staub. Every robotics company, if they're not working on that right now, they're going to be like way missing the boat, because this is, I think,
if you've seen that video where he's holding it and he tells it, basically he's got two hands on the cuff, you know, on Axis 6 or whatever, and he says free drive mode, and it goes into free drive mode. Every 6-axis robot, I feel like, should have that, so I can use two hands, move the robot
and it's
around.
like mind blown, right? I'm out there, I'm just like videoing as I'm watching all of this, and it's just like, wow, this is so cool. And but you know, AI is super cool because, you know, I asked ChatGPT to write me a palletizing program for a KUKA robot that we've got on the shop floor right now, and in like 5 seconds I had a program. Now, did it need to have points touched up and some stuff like that? Yeah, because not because it wasn't capable, but I wasn't capable of prompting it correctly, you know. I mean, I think if given all of the parameters and things like that, but it's just, to me, it was just like, wow, this can make my engineering department's life so much easier. All of a sudden, you've got, you know, a frame of reference to start programming from. You're not sitting down and programming from scratch. You know, and it's can convert, you know, this UR program over to KUKA or whatever. And I mean, it's just like, there's so many possibilities. It's just such a cool time to be doing what we're doing. It is so exciting.
You know, that frustration of, you know, it comes up a lot in automation, is all of these things are the same except for. And I feel like there's a lot of that stuff in, like, you're writing PLC code and you're like, all of these rungs are going to be the same except for, but you can kind of tell ChatGPT that, and it's scary how usable the code is that it generates. Like, you do have to mess, like, you can't just put it on a PLC.
Tweak it. I mean, for like, sure.
You have to tweak it a little bit, but it's so much already done for you. It's kind of scary.
I know. It was just mind-blowing to me to just watch it and just be like, wow. And then I just have to go in with a couple of other prompts and be like, oh, well, this is the top of chain on my conveyor, and, you know, and just a few things like that. And it was really limited by my inexperience in prompting and not in ChatGPT's ability to do it, which is just so cool. I mean, I just am so excited. You know, I'm so excited that I'm selling the idea to the Leaf guy. I mean, the Leaf guy, I felt left my house thinking he was going to buy a robot, you know. It was that cool. And I'm thrilled to talk about it. I mean, I know a lot of people are fearful, and I know there's some downsides, and aren't there always? But I mean, I just look at different things that we do here and how it can enhance what we do and make our jobs easier. It's not going to replace anybody here by any means, but it is certainly going to make them more efficient in what they do and are able to do. And I think, you know, everybody says, oh yeah, we're robot agnostic. I think, you know, we're going to reach a point where that is going to be really true. We are going to be, you know, because right now, we're better at programming this than programming that, you know, but that's all going away. And there's just not a better time to get involved in what we're doing. I think now is just like going to be so exciting. It's the cutting edge.
It is. Very, very well said, Cathy. And it's refreshing to hear that from someone that has so much experience in the industry, because I feel like sometimes the inverse is true. The longer people have been doing a certain thing, the more likely they are to be fearful of change rather than embracing new ways of doing things. But of course, I shouldn't expect that from you. You guys have been evolving, you know, the whole time you've been in business. So,
you know, I always like to do things easier and better. And, you know, am I fearful of certain aspects of it? Of course I am. You know, I mean, a lot of things can go wrong, but this is my 40th year in this business, and a lot of things have gone wrong, and a lot of things will continue to go wrong, and we just have to deal with it. And I think the thing is that you can go by the way of the dinosaur, or you can embrace the fact that life as we know it continues to change. I'm pretty sure that the axe guys were really upset when the chainsaw guys came and said, look at this chainsaw. Right? And they're like, oh no, this chainsaw is going to put the lumberjacks out of business. Well, it didn't put the lumberjacks out of business. It made the lumberjacks' job so much easier. And it's like, I talk about that a lot. We talk about how we make the line workers' jobs easier in manufacturing, and how we're taking these dull, dirty, dangerous jobs and we're making them better. And, we're trying to enhance your work experience. And I know Lauren laughs all the time because I tell people, it's like, we take zoo animals and we're far more concerned about their enclosures and how enriching they are. Yet we're sticking all these people in this big building and we don't care, just get in there and do your job, right? And I think
I would like to point out that I don't have a window. Just as we're talking about enriching.
It's too distracting.
That was a conversation my dad, honest to God, had with me, was like, we don't need windows. You would look at it too much. Like, just pointing this out.
I have a window. I'm watching a cardinal eat in a bird feeder right now, right outside my window. The bird feeder was made out of our extruded aluminum, by the way. So, it's an extension of work. But
there we go.
We have to ask. And one of the cool things, I just attended a conference and it had a lot about the digital twin and all of that. And I was super excited. One of the speakers was from UPS, and he said, well, how they're using that is they're actually taking that and letting an operator not only hear about how great something's going to be, but actually physically be in the cell with the automation that is forthcoming. And that really resonated with me. It resonated with me because it's like, we tell operators how much better their life is going to be, but are we really listening to them? Are we really giving them any option? And the whole digital twin concept and the fact that they could be in this cell and be like, okay, well, this is great, but this is what I do. And if we just move this a little bit, this could really make a difference. And then they get to actually be a part of the decision-making and in the engineering. And I feel like, we've got to stop saying how we're making their lives better and let them start saying how we're making their lives better. Because if we were actually doing a really good job of that, we wouldn't have to be saying it all the time. They would, they would be going to management and saying, hey, can not automate this? Why am I still doing this manually? So I think we as an industry really need to work on involving the end users and the operators more in the process. And I think eventually that dispels a lot of the fear and really gets them a lot faster buy-in. And that's important. Yeah. And if we're worried about enriching the enclosures of zoo animals, I feel like we need to be worried about enriching the work lives of all of the millions of people that are clocking in every day.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, I try to preach this sometimes. I worked in supply chain digital transformation using AI to make that process more efficient. So a lot of things that people manually used to do, we automated as part of the implementation of this software, Algo. And we found that just what we started to do is have a workshop with all the end users before we even started the implementation phase to tell them or show them more so what parts of their job would be easier, get their feedback, and also tell them how much they would enhance their own skills by learning to work with this. So makes them more marketable, either for other positions in the company, for promotions, but also enhancing their resume for whatever may come next. Because I think
100%.
Unless you're in a family business or, you have a long-term investment in a company, you're at an employee-owned company, or maybe, have equity in a startup, people are going to have to change their jobs, or companies may have to lay people off. That's a reality that I think all of us now know. I graduated, right in a recession where everybody that I knew was getting laid off. And so I've never had that kind of idea of a job security.
Same.
And I think even though we all like that, we all know it's not true now. So I think we might as well talk out in the open about the fact that, hey, everything that you do is adding to your skills. And think about
adds value.
You feel valued, that even if you do need to move on someday, whether that's from our side or your side, what you're learning here is valuable and can be transferable. And I think we,
agreed.
Manufacturing companies in particular kind of think of a lot of times their employees as like, hey, you come in, you do this job, you trade your time for hours, and that's what the job is. And I think we see that younger people want more fulfillment. They want more ownership. They want more.
They need enrichment.
Yeah, enrichment.
So I was playing the game of life with my kids yesterday. They're 4 and 6. Do you guys remember that board game? You spin the wheel.
Yes.
You take your car around and you add people to your car. And so it's the basic same game, but I guess it was, put out more recently so that the jobs you can choose are things like my son was an app developer as his career yesterday. And cool. Vlogger was another option. And these are non-degreed jobs that if you start your career right away, you can have. And, I was talking to my daughter 6, so she thinks a little bit more about this. But the last time we played, they went straight for a career because as soon as they heard they could get paid right away, they were like, yes, we want that. And then this time around, we talked a little
Smart
bit.
Kids.
What does it mean to go to college? And then my daughter was like, oh, so I have to go to college if I want to be an engineer like Allie? She's like, that's what I want to do. I want to be an engineer like Allie. So she, made the investment and went to college. And I don't think most of the newfangled jobs were not the degreed ones. Those were kind of the same. But there apparently are a lot more options now for young people with no college degrees to make money doing things like developing apps and making video content and whatever else. And I think, us that have worked hard in the traditional career sense, a lot of times tend to poo-poo on that as an option. I think I'm more lazy. But as someone that does a little bit of video content, it is not easy. It's not something I take for granted, that it's a marketable skill.
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, what I tried to tell my kids is like, well, if you want to make content, learn something useful and then make content about it as you're learning. That way, if the content isn't a way to make money, then at least the skill you're learning is. Unless you're really career options. I mean, we know great people that do videography and that's a career, right? Or photography. Yeah, these are just extensions of those sorts of skills, which we've always found to be valuable, or at least most people. So I don't really know what this whole attitude of like, well, these jobs are not real or people need to be more serious. I think
content creation is like one of those iceberg things. You see the tip, it's like, 2-minute video, great, I could make money doing that. And I'm like, that 2-minute video took hours to make.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of thought that's constantly going into, with our own content creation. We're constantly brainstorming of, hey, let's do something like this. I think this would be fun, or I think this would be a great video and things like that. But it does take a lot. But, I think one thing we're trying to foster here locally, and mind you, we're in the middle of the country, right? We're still trying to get the teachers in our local schools away from the ideas that the young ladies need to be nurses, secretaries, teachers, or homemakers. We were looking at a school internship program, and Lauren was at the local high school and she did a presentation, and then she was telling the teacher, well, we do have some like accounting and secretarial stuff that open too for an intern. And the teacher looked at her and was like, oh, great. I had some girls apply and I wasn't sure what to do with them. She came back and told me that, and I almost fainted. And I like, this is 2024. Seriously?
I was
that was my generation, not
my brain
now.
did a hard reset. Like I couldn't even think of an answer. I just like
right. Yeah.
I mean, loading response. We're not as much concerned about whether you're going to be a blogger. It's just like we want to get away from the fact that you have to be in a gender stereotyped career. I mean, and I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked.
Yeah. One of our early episodes, we talked with Aaron Prather back when he was still at FedEx. And he had a group of students come in, and it was only boys. And so he asked whoever it was, like, oh, where are the girls? And they just straight up said, oh, we didn't think that they would be interested.
Right?
It's ridiculous that that's still a thing.
Still going on. And, if it's happening here and I understand we're here in the Midwest, we're not always necessarily on the cutting edge, right? But we're also here in the Midwest where, it's not uncommon to see girls out hunting, fishing, and, changing the tire on their pickup truck. Right. I mean, so it's like, I guess it was really, that was the big shock to me, because we're in a very rural area. And I mean, when I grew up, there were no gender roles, we had farm work and it had to be done. And so there was no, oh, well, you're a girl, you don't get to do that. It was like, hey, let me show you how to weld this so that you can fix it. Or, my dad was, I guess, very progressive before progressive was cool, because he didn't have a son, and he was stuck with me and he had to make the most of it. So, I never had any gender roles growing up. I mean, it was just like, it was very natural to me that if there was something that needed to be done, I just did it because that was the way it was, when I grew up. And I think Lauren's dad and I really tried to not give her an idea that there were certain things that she could or couldn't do based on,
And that is absolutely, absolutely true. Like the first time that I actually saw sexism in the wild, I was honest to God confused, because I'm like, that's like real.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I grew up and I have my mother, there's the president of a automation company. I knew 2 other female presidents of automation companies. I had all of these really strong role models and was just raised with this idea that there isn't men work or women's work. There's just work. And yeah, some things you're better at than others. Because I have zero spatial reasoning. That is a part of who I am. That has nothing to do with me being a girl. That is just me. And
she knocked all the downspouts off my barn, so I can attest to that.
Absolutely. True story. I'm still really bad at trailers. Do not recommend me ever driving one, but it was really interesting to see. And the longer I'm in this field and the more I'm seeing other women in it, and it's becoming more and more apparent how few women there were to start with. I was just really lucky because I was in this insulated pocket of successful women role models that it never even occurred to me that women wouldn't be in this industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that I joke about is, at trade shows and things, because my very first PAC Expo that I went to in 2006, I swear I had the entire bathroom to myself. It wasn't even
other I love that.
Women. Probably
it's how we measure how far we've come. It's like if we have to wait in line at the bathroom,
how full the bathroom is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And I joke with Mom all the time because I'm like, one day whenever I'm not wearing so many hats at work and I have more time to devote to marketing and things, I'm going to make a podcast and it's going to be called Live from the Ladies Room. And I'm just going to go to all of these automation shows and interview women right outside the bathroom door. That is...
I have cornered a few women at trade shows by the bathroom because we're scattered everywhere. That's the only place you're guaranteed to find a woman.
It's the common meeting ground.
Exactly.
And so I've told people about automation ladies either in the bathroom or before or after. And then sometimes I realize when I retell those stories, I should maybe be a little bit more granular about I didn't accost them while they were using the bathroom, but
any woman who has actually been in a ladies' room understands that is where the best networking ever happens,
because we don't have the cigar room after the thing to congregate at or whatever. That's our
and this may be sexist, but we also have Starbucks. I run into so many of my other women in line at the Starbucks. So.
Oh, at the Starbucks, at the shows.
At the shows, yes.
And also
either the bathroom or the Starbucks.
We offer to go get coffee for other people, which is a great trait for many of us. Not to be expected of us to get the coffee, but some of us will volunteer one way or the other.
Well, yeah, because being kind costs nothing. Like
exactly, and you can be kind regardless of your gender.
Absolutely.
And I really don't.
My favorite stories was I happened to walk in our conference room one day, and there was a young man sitting at the table, and he turned around and he said, "Hun, could you make me a cup of coffee?" And so I said, "Sure." And I made the cup of coffee, and I sat it on front of him, table in front of him, went back into my office. And then I was called into the meeting later as the president of the company. And you should have just seen his face. He was just like mortified. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I was like, "Hey, you know what? I can make a good sandwich too. You know, don't worry about it." But it's like, yeah, I guess I could have chosen to take that in the wrong way, but I was just like, all right, sure, I can make a cup of coffee. You bet I can. I can run a company and make a cup of coffee. What's your superpower? So I think I'm kind of proud of us as women that we can handle ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can, sweep the floor or whatever. I know that's also like a good leader, and this is at least my philosophy, should and be willing and able to do any job in the business or help the people that work for them.
Yes.
And just in general, like that's a trait.
Yeah, you'll find me out running airlines sometimes, or whatever. I put together somebody's office chair the other day because they weren't there, and it's just like whatever needs to be done, I'm going to do it. Lauren's going to do it. We're going to do it. We are like the batting of cleanup here, and so if there's something that somebody can't get done or won't get done, it usually falls to us, and we make it happen.
And I think that's more, maybe it's an ego thing than like necessarily a gender thing that, the president of the company shouldn't demean themselves by making a cup of coffee. But it's also like, I don't know if a whole lot of male presidents of a company are ever asked to make a cup of coffee.
Right. I don't think they are.
They probably
either way, it shouldn't never offend someone to be asked to make a cup of coffee, in my opinion, because coffee is
your dad couldn't make a cup of coffee to save his life.
Well, that's because
I wouldn't want to drink it if he did.
Coffee, Dad doesn't drink coffee or know how coffee works. That is just not in his skill set.
So I will say we're coming up. I wish we weren't, but we're coming up on the end of the hour here soon. And, Automation Ladies, I said this earlier. We're called Automation Ladies because we are the hosts are ladies. And my inspiration came from a podcast called Office Ladies, which is Angela and Pam from The Office. They are best friends and they have a show that they talk about The Office. Part of it is we wanted more content by women in our industry because we grew up kind of in the industry alone, less so than you, Lauren, having those like local role models in leadership or in industry. I felt a little bit more alone, but I also didn't want to be shooed into a room with the other woman or the other three or told.
Right.
So I personally don't get a whole lot out of women only type situations. Like,
agreed.
I like to learn from everyone. I don't get offended if I get asked to make the coffee unless I know that somebody like is doing it to be a dick. Excuse me. Like most of these types of behaviors,
they exist.
They're learned. They exist. It doesn't mean people are bad people for acting a certain way. Like once you really know a person, then you can make a judgment call on whether or not you think they're, being that way on purpose, or they're just conditioned, or they don't know better, or they didn't realize. Right. Yeah. There's a whole lot of that. And so it was for me kind of a journey to get to a point where I personally run something like this called Automation Ladies, because so many people assume when they see the name that we are some sort of women empowerment group or whatever association, you name it, people assume it's us. I love supporting other women, but I also prefer to do
supporting men too. I really do.
And doing it with people that are capable, that have low ego, that are collaborative, whether that's a man or a woman, I really could care less. And so I hate that I try not to talk about these things on the show much because I don't want to be known as the people that talk about all the problems, or we only talk about women's issues. Like, we're not. But at the same time, we should all just be able to talk about them in any context, and it also be okay and it not be this big explosive issue. Like, because if we want people to act differently, then they also need to know why and all that kind of stuff. And then I do see as well from like, there was a post that actually Courtney, that Julia from URG shared this video that was going around Instagram of these little girls talking about the achievement gap or something along those lines.
The dream gap.
Dream gap, yeah. And then I shouldn't have read the comments, right? But then you get some women that are like, this is not true. This has never happened to me. I've had all the support and success. And Lauren, thank you for not being that woman, because it's not true for everyone. That is true. No. There's total there's everybody's experiences out there, and everybody's experience is valid and different.
Yes.
It wasn't true for me either, but you know what? I don't regret other people's
experiences.
I mean, I've
and just because we're pro-woman doesn't mean we're anti-man.
I had so many male role models in my career, and I've had a whole lot more positives than negatives. I've met a couple that were jerks and that put me through my paces and did it on purpose. But you know what? I always tried to know my stuff. And if I didn't know my stuff, I'm going to be the first person to say, you know what? I don't know. But I'm sure I know somebody who does. Let me get back to you. So I feel like, you gain respect that way. And I am happy to work shoulder to shoulder with the guys. I'm happy to work shoulder to shoulder with the women, because I think the key is working shoulder to shoulder.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think just like anybody, when you get to know someone, it's a lot harder to judge them when you know their motivations, their background, like why they do things the way they do. And a big part, it's so easy to judge people you don't know or things you don't understand. And the more that we all connect and collaborate and get to know each other's stories and struggles in the industry, I think it's so much easier to work shoulder to shoulder with someone that, even if you're not at all the same or you don't work the same way, once you find that common ground, and that's at least how I in my career was able to gain the respect of, let's say, applications engineers that didn't want to have anything to do with the new salesperson, or thought that, walked in the room, it's a girl, oh, she's not going to be capable. Right? As soon as they get to know me and vice versa, you find that common ground. And that's really that human connection. And I really hope that, like you guys said, that we can start paying attention to the enclosures that we work in, or that our employees work in. And the more we can automate their work, the more they can have time for human connection, the more we can connect with them as humans. Figure out, why the heck are you working here other than your hourly paycheck, and what do you want? And AI, and we were talking earlier about customizing these Barbies, right? Automation and technology can usher us into a new era of mass personalization, to where we actually can afford to consider individual circumstances versus just splitting us into groups, because back in the day, that's all we could manage. 2 groups. It's either man or woman, or it's, small or large or medium, right? Granularity is hard if you don't have the mechanisms to deal with it, right? Then you have to do an all one size fits all thing. And automation, as much as it's frustrating to make it all custom, for it to really work for a particular application in its most optimal state, it does need to be custom in a way. So yeah, we are up on time. I do want to give a shout out. We will be putting out more content from Automate. I regrettably did not actually make it to your booth, even though I was one aisle over for an entire day.
Ironically, I saw Allie in the bathroom.
Okay. A quick conversation with Cathy coming out in the next few weeks. We're going to do a little mini series of the interviews that we did at Automate. Would love it if you guys shared more of the Box Easy content with us, so we can put that out there, because that I see as a perfect example of a collaborative application. You've got a UR on there, and you guys have really taken that piece of technology that's very standard and can be customized, but built it for your customers, what you see, what they need, what they're doing, and that customizable. I think is kind of also a lot of modularity, right? With some customization, is a great way for us to be more efficient in what we do going forward. Not reinventing the wheel every time, but also not sticking people with solutions that are not the right size.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
For instance, talking about case erecting, right? In the past, it was either you hand erected your boxes or you had one machine that did thousands of the same size box all day long.
Yeah, a very big machine.
Right, yes. A very big machine that does that one thing all day
and long. Having broke down boxes for a whole trade show multiple times, I did not think anybody wants to build boxes 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Nobody.
And just on the collaboration, just so everybody knows, we are more than happy to sell other integrators or distributors the erecting and forming table, the end of arm tooling, all of the components. We don't have to sell the whole solution as a completed package.
It is a UR plus. So we do have somewhat of a standard, but it's a robot agnostic. So, you can put whatever robot on.
We have sold the components packages to other integrators like Fanuc integrators and things like that. And they've installed those with great success at their customer facilities too. So, we're not greedy. We're happy to have as much or as little of the pie, whatever the pie size it is. Yeah. We're just happy to work with other people. I mean, we like making connections with other people in the industry, and
we just love pie.
Love what we do. So,
well, yeah, I love pie.
Any size slice.
Any size pie, as long as it's cherry.
Tell our listeners where they can find you guys if they want to follow you personally, connect with you guys, buy the Box Easy, or collaborate on projects. Where should people go to make sure that you are on their radar in the future or easy to reach when they have projects?
Well, I think the easiest thing to do would be to go to our website. If you go to flex-lineautomation.com, because we have the world's longest URL, obviously there's a ton of information and contact information there. But if anyone just wants to watch some cool videos and maybe get inspired by what we've done in the past and what we're continuing to do, I would really recommend that they follow Mom on LinkedIn, because she is the conveyor cougar. And so if you just Google conveyor cougar at this point, she actually comes up, and that's a lot easier to remember than the lovely long.
We do have an awesome YouTube channel, and you can follow me on TikTok at the conveyor cougar. Although a lot of my TikToks out there have been muted since they had that whole universal music thing. So it's not as cool as it once was, but still. But yeah, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, Conveyor Cougar is a good way to find me. I try to share a lot of our application videos and talk about some of the things that we do. I think it's interesting. I also we like to have fun. You're not going to be the boring company that's going to put out all of the 3-piece suit business guys sitting around a conference table videos. I think you guys probably all saw today our flamethrower video. So we're a little bit redneck, very approachable and very authentic. What y'all see is what you get.
And I will confirm that, having met you guys in person multiple times. And that is one of my favorite things, when I can meet a person and it feels like I already know them, and they're actually what they look and sound like, if I've met them online. I apologize if I meet you guys meet somebody that's here, like at a trade show, and I don't recognize you. Part of that's me. I just can't keep track of everyone. Even though I've been in sales my whole career, I'm terrible with faces and names unless I know you. So now I've been saying, unless we've had a real conversation and I learned something about you other than your name and your face, I will definitely remember you. But the other thing is, if you're
show me your mugshot.
If your online persona or your LinkedIn profile is a headshot from 10 years ago, I might not recognize you at an in-person event. Geez. Okay. I think this is my sign that we're done. I'm done talking. Highly recommend that you follow these ladies, connect with them on LinkedIn. Cathy's content is both informative and hilarious. It will make your day when you see it. So thank you, ladies, so much for the time.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for being a wonderful part of our community. We love it every time we get to interact with you. And I
love wearing the Automation Ladies sweatshirt and having everybody go, what is that? So.
And we should also say, if you are not following Automation Ladies on YouTube, we have a YouTube now. We have not figured out the rest of social media yet. So you're not going to find us anywhere other than LinkedIn and YouTube at this moment. But we are growing. And we are really all about, getting, when Allie and I started this, we said it's not about us. We want somebody to come and take over as soon as possible. We just wanted to start this instead of complaining that nobody was doing it. And thankfully, we've had some wonderful people in our ecosystem, guests from season 1 that are starting to become more involved. Elena Vellin is one of them. She's going to be running our Discord community when we get that off the ground sometime later this year. And we recently spoke with Ashley Ash, who, if you haven't caught her episode, she's amazing. She started out as a janitor at our manufacturing plant. Now she's a robot programmer and maintenance, and she's an Amazon influencer. And she really breaks down how much work it is to create like videos for like even product reviews and stuff. But I made a promise to sponsor her to go to Automate next year so she can get robot content. And like we tell everyone should have the chance to jog a robot at least once in their lifetime. So you can find us at any number of different shows. We will try to get you a chance to do that. And I'm pretty sure if you go visit Cathy and Lauren, they will also let you jog a robot. So
oh God, yeah.
Plenty of opportunities to go around.
Come to our facility in Chester, Illinois, anytime. We would love it.
And we will also be at Pack Expo. So if anybody wants to stop by at Pack X,
oh yeah, that's coming out.
301, and yeah, we will 100% pause the program, and you can play with the robot.
Very cool. We will try to
jog a robot. It'll change your life.
It will. All right, kids. That's a wrap. Have a great rest of your
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.